great time. I want to say a special good morning to our listeners and viewers. Welcome to today's edition of To The Point. It's Wednesday, the 27th day of May 2026. Good morning to those of you also via social media platforms, Facebook page, YouTube channels. As usual, good morning to you and thanks for being with us this morning. You can certainly share the live to your friends and family. And let me say good morning to, of course, my guest this morning, Senator Honorable David Andrew does this morning. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome back to The Point.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a while, but it's good to be in your studio. And good morning to all your listeners and viewers, wherever they are tuning to the program.
And you know, it's always a pleasure to have. It's always constructive conversation when we do get to sit here and have that conversation, especially when it relates to education.
Oh, yes.
It's important to always have. You know, there's a saying, you know, today we look at the future of Grenadian education, and that's definitely a milestone, I will say, for Grenada for education. And you know, as we track the major, you know, financing influx of our local businesses, you know, and the digital transformation of our classrooms, etc., and you know, the physical and safety and school ahead is the upcoming academic year. So it's certainly going to be something interesting to look forward to.
Yes, lots of good updates to bring.
Totally true. I want to start the conversation. We have lots to talk about this morning, so I'm going to just say we're going to jump into the water one time. You know?
Quite rightly, sir. Not a problem at all.
I want to, Minister Andrew, I want to ask you, what specific gap in our public education system triggered that you know, immediate need to launch that private sector alliance?
Right. So I think it's clear. On several different levels, you have heard complaints about the level of literacy functionally of our people, their inability to read. And you hear educators talk about it, that at higher levels, in the secondary levels, some persons are entering secondary school unable to read properly. You hear employers talk about it, that the ability for persons to read, decode, and comprehend what is being taught isn't quite what it's supposed to be. So there's a national awareness, but not just national in terms of public opinion. The statistics are telling us that in 2024, let's say, the Ministry of Education has a minimum competency test that is done at the grades 2, grades 4, and grades 5 level. And that's been done from time immemorial, for a long time, for decades. But this is to assess the whether or not the students have the minimum competencies for literacy, numeracy, and those areas tested to move to the next level. And we found that in 2024, only 34% of our children had the competencies. Yeah? And it means that 66% of our nation's children fell below that. And that's the regular state of play within the education system. Now, as Minister for Education, I cannot continue to preside over this without some strategic intervention at the level where it makes the biggest difference, foundations, right? In addition to that, regional statistics from the OECS Digest prepared across the region and Grenada's Central Statistical Division indicates that over 30% of persons within the school system do not read, and that was probably since 2019, 2020, because the statistical reviews usually are a couple of years late. Okay. So what I told you up front was our current assessments from
and you see from 2024, yes.
But the other would point to over 30-something% not being able to read at level across all grades. And so these statistics point to a significant gap for foundational literacy. And we are aware that every other acquisition in the education system is built upon what you gather foundationally.
Yes, so true.
If you don't know your alphabet, you won't be able to recognize CAT. You won't be able to read a big word, let alone Mississippi or some other, right? And so that's the real gap. That's the real issue. The lack of foundational skills and its cumulative effect throughout the rest of the course of the young people's lives. So all of the things we try to do down the road to make this little program there, put this there and say skills of these stopgap programs, if we had never put something in place to address this foundational gap, we would be doing this damage control down the road for a lot of years.
Top and mud scenarios, folks would say.
Yeah, and so that, to answer your question, is the foundation and the gap that informs the need to engage foundational learning that led to the formation of the private sector alliance that you asked me about.
Let me ask you this, and I mean, hearing this conversation before in terms of the literacy level of youngsters in school today, how serious a problem was that from your investigation, so that you really had to tap into it, how serious a problem was it in being these youngsters unable to read? And we have heard that been mentioned before. You understand? But I've never heard any major investigation put into it. You mentioned, from research and so forth, that when in an investigation, 30-something% is unable to, is able to, and that other 60-something% is unable to. How serious a problem is that in the education system in Grenada?
I think it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
It's a serious problem to the extent that you hear it replicated at every level. Now, we have universal secondary education, and ask the teachers who receive the Form 1s. Many of them would clamor, these children can read. But of course, I understand as minister, that's just one myopic part of the challenge. So I'm not going to lament there.
Yeah.
Because we have a whole system to look at. Ask the employers. They'll tell you, even the people who come out of TAM-CC on some occasions, they still, shamefully, sometimes can't present the kind of CVs that you want or the kind of presentations that you want. So you hear it. Is it a serious problem? Yes. It is a serious problem because once persons can't read, their comprehension begins to get affected. And it means what you see, you may not even be able to comprehend it. You can't even articulate it well, let alone comprehend and be able to respond proactively or be able to respond creatively. So I think it affects so many levels across our society, and that's why it's important to treat with. And so, I mean, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I anxiously want to talk about the foundational learning program that we are...
Sorry. I mean, if you want to go into that at this point, you could go into it.
Yeah. So coming out of that, the Ministry of Education has launched a foundational literacy program within the schools. And that will target children between grades K and grade 4 to make sure that every child in Grenada across our primary schools learn to read and understand what is being read. That's what this program is about, the foundational literacy program. Because we want to make sure, and it's not a one-off course, it's not a one-off training, it's going to be a program that we are going to partner with SUMA, and SUMA is the research laboratory for education for Latin America and the Caribbean.
Yes.
And we are going to partner with them to implement this program across a 3 to 6 year period to ensure, and I'll talk to you about the components of it. But this was born, apart from the statistics that I shared with you, which set a good context for it. Last year in 2025, as Minister for Education, I signed on to the Antigua Declaration, where ministers of education from some 11 countries from Latin America and the Caribbean, including Grenada, signed on to a declaration, a commitment to ensure that all children between 5 and 9, between 0 and 9, were able to read. And so we signed on to that. I signed on Grenada's behalf. And coming out of that, and coming out of what the research was that was presented in Guatemala, Antigua, Guatemala, we set to work at the Ministry of Education and determined that we were going to implement a foundational learning, foundational literacy intervention to do exactly that. And there are some key elements of that. Yeah. So I'm saying we're partnering with SUMA.
Yes.
So SUMA has contacts with all of the cutting-edge research. They have research about how the brain works in terms of reading, the latest neurological findings.
Yes.
They are linked with some of the best partners internationally, the Erasmus Foundation. They do a lot of work with early childhood developers. Pratham, they do interventions for teaching at the right level. And that was one of the things that got my attention significantly, where you don't just teach people across grades, but you teach people to read across competencies.
Yes.
So we might be in different grades, but if you're assessed and you have a particular gap, a particular challenge, you are grouped according to that challenge, and that competence is taught there. So you might be a 12-year-old, you might be a 6-year-old, you might be a 4-year-old, but that's the competency that's being taught there, as opposed to saying, well, I'm in grade 3, or I'm in grade 4, or I'm in grade 6. So it's taught based on competency.
You're still at a lower level in terms of that.
So you're not permanently grouped, but you group based on the competence being taught at the moment. So some of these some of the things that you're going to see happening in this program. So, and we're partnering with SUMA. And so it's going to involve review of the teaching learning process. Yes. What exactly are the pedagogical guidelines? What's the neurological sciences saying about this process that the teachers need to understand, that we need to teach our teachers about? So there's going to be investigation of the teaching learning process, the pedagogical core. There's going to be support for teachers. So it's not just going to be a one-off training for teachers. Over the next 3 to 6 years, we'll be working with teachers, training them, coaching them. So you actually have literacy and reading specialists assigned to coach the teachers along the way, so that they continuously are monitored and supported as they work with our nation's children to ensure that they all learn to read. Mm-hmm. And then there's going to be working with the parents, because one of the challenges Grenada's education system has faced is a lack of involvement of our families and our parents in the educational development of our nation's children. Mm. And so that program will also see outreach to families and parents. And we have studied models. We have visited, a team from the education department went to Sobral in Brazil, where that model is being pursued. And there is a lot. They don't have superior facilities compared to Grenada, I dare say, from my review and discussion with some of the officers who went. But what they have is an alignment of the curriculum with the education system, the world of work, partners, and an involvement of community, family, community. And one story was even told where even somebody as high up as one of the mayors of one of those communities would help call for students who were missing in school. So it wasn't just a case for the Ministry of Education, but it was a community affair. Yeah. And so that's part of what we are trying to do, to make sure families are empowered to better support their children to learn to read and write going through. So in keeping with that, though, and I'm coming to how the private sector got involved here. Yeah. When we started this outreach with SUMA put us in touch with another international partner, the Global Partnership for Education, with whom we have partnered in several different areas. But SUMA made us aware that through the Global Partnership for Education, the GPE, we had the possibility of having matching funding if we were able to mobilize our private sector to help us fund this very literacy program that I just talked about. So we got busy, we had a short window, and we reached out to our business partners here in Grenada. We invited them, and we said, listen, this is what we want to do, this is the problem we have, this is the challenge before us in terms of literacy and numeracy, and this is our plan, the foundational literacy intervention. We are prepared to do it alone, but we have an opportunity where if you come on board as the private sector, we could get additional funds to do more.
And the response was?
Oh, the response was excellent. In fact, that's what caused us to get the private sector alliance. But they came on board, and while the target was to raise a maximum of $2 million US. And if we raised $2 million US, we were going to get that matched by the Global Partnership for Education. So that was going to be in addition to government financing and funding that we were prepared to put in already. We were saying if we got $2 million US from the private sector, GPE was going to put $2 million as well. So we're going to have $2 million from the private sector, $2 million from GPE, plus what government financing was going to do. I mean, and that just opens the possibility. So when we heard that, we immediately pulled the private sector companies and we shared with them. And in short order, within a window of almost less than a month and a half, they were able to commit not the $2 million, but 400 plus thousand US.
So we had 400 and
right?
400 and if my info is correct, I think we get 425,000.
Yes, I think that's what it is around. Probably there are 1 or 2 persons who still want to contribute, and before the end of the program, I'll be happy to make a pitch again, so that they could still come on board and become partners. But we got them to contribute, and GPE and SUMA was so impressed with Grenada's ability as a small island nation,
in the short space of time also.
in the short space of time, to mobilize the business partners to the extent of almost $500,000. And they felt, wow, that's a leading example for the world.
Yes.
In fact, they found that sustainable model for education financing was an example for the rest of the world to follow.
Yeah.
So in fact, they invited Grenada to Washington a couple of weeks ago to feature Grenada as part of the alongside the spring meetings last month, I think it was, or earlier this month, last month, yes. And so Grenada was trending, still trending, and part of this whole arrangement is to pull the private sector together, and we have decided to form this alliance, the Private Sector Alliance for Education. So there was an official launch last week,
yes, where
we brought these business partners. They have a serious interest in education, and we appreciate them immensely. We thank them for their support, for their interest, and their financial contributions to the success of this program. I could probably even list the names of those companies if you'd allow me, to be able to highlight those companies. I mean, we're very, very appreciative of those companies. So we have the Grenada Cooperative Nutmeg Association, the La Luna Boutique Hotel and Villas, the Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Authority, the Calabash Hotel, Antillian Finance and Investment Group, Inc., Digicel Grenada Limited, Ariza Credit Union, Nexa Credit Union, LL Ramdani and Company Limited, Grenada Schools Incorporated, True Blue Bay Resort, Afiventu and Co. Attorneys at Law, and Spice Isle Tires Limited. These are the companies that so far, there are others who have expressed interest that we have not yet brought in.
Yes.
These are the companies that came so far that have contributed.
Made their contribution.
And we are so appreciative of those companies, and we are willing to continue to collaborate with them. They will give the expertise in terms of guidance, suggestions, feedback. They'll provide a little accountability loop for such programs, and we hope to continue partnering with them because there are other key initiatives in the core of education that we are pushing, that we want, that we'll be happy to have their kind of expertise, insight, financing for going forward. And so we're very, very appreciative at where we are.
We do for a break. When we come back, I want us to speak a little bit about the implementation of this process. Especially a key something that you mentioned, instead of getting the teachers involved when they will be taught how to deal with the students of that nature. I want us to talk about that when we come back. Folks, let's take that break. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us. Don't touch it out.
The Ministry of Agriculture White Potato Production Initiative is an OECS sub-regional project aimed at reducing Grenada's reliance on imported white potatoes, which in 2025 had an imported value of over 4.5 million EC dollars. The White Potato Production Initiative is part of the Ministry of Agriculture's food security drive and is being undertaken with the simultaneous cultivation of other crops such as sweet potatoes, pineapples, coconuts, carrots, and other vegetables. Other OECS countries like Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are already at an advanced stage in white potato production, with Dominica completely cutting the import of white potatoes during the first quarter of 2026. Grenada is now preparing to advance production for better output in 2027. The Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, ensuring food and nutrition security for all.
Welcome to the island's boldest ATV experience. The only tour daring enough to bring you this level of excitement, freedom, and adrenaline. Feel the power. Conquer rugged trails. Experience breathtaking views. Ride beyond the ordinary. Feel the power. This is not just a tour. This is the power of Ride ATV. Get ready for fun. Get ready for excitement. Get ready to ride. Book now at ride.gd. or call 473-422-1011. Ride ATV. Adventure starts here.
At 5 p.m. on August 5th, 1944, the schooner Island Queen sailed out of the St. George's Harbor. On board were some of Grenada's brightest and best sons and daughters. What happened afterwards remains a mystery.
Where Island Queen gone?
Heritage Theatre Company presents Lucy's Straw Hat, a full-length drama written and directed by Chris DeRiggs, a moving story about a family caught up in the drama of this great mystery. Meet Mammy Sylvie, a woman with a secret too heavy to keep but too painful to reveal.
Asking for forgiveness for not telling you the truth.
Pa John, the war veteran.
Sometimes I sit here feeling so helpless, so crushed.
Hyacinth, always ready to do mischief.
You don't see the woman Uncle Norris married. She face ugly enough to turn milk.
Lucy, beautiful and headstrong.
I had a dream, Mommy, that Hyacinth was there, holding my hand.
Lucy's Straw Hat at Grenada Trade Center on Saturday 13th and Sunday 14th June, and at the Luke Cinema on Saturday 20th and Sunday 21st June. All shows 7 p.m. Advance tickets $60, $75 at the door. Come join us.
Where Island Queen gone?
Fire up the coals, bring the flavor. It's time to crown the King of the Grill. Maggie King of the Grill 2026 is calling you. Think you got the creativity, the skills, and the fire to rule the grill? This is the ultimate showdown for chefs, backyard masters, and the food lovers alike. Step up, show your talent, and claim your spot among the best. With over $5,000 in cash and prizes to be won. The stakes has never been hotter. Happening Saturday, May the 30th. Register now. Call or WhatsApp 407-8458. But hurry, registration close April the 30th. Don't wait. Bring your fire, bring your flavor, and bring your A-game. Maggie, King of the Grill 2026, where champions are made on the grill.
Welcome back once again to our listeners. Welcome back to our viewers. To the Point, Classic Radio GBN TV. Senator David Andrew with us this morning on today's edition of To the Point. Senator Andrew, welcome back once again. As mentioned before the break, there's always that concern how that particular phase you want to do it in terms of the education process, the getting the of course the businesses involved and so forth to help in terms of helping our youngsters in terms of the education. The implementation process that I'm a little bit concerned about.
Right.
You mentioned the issues where of course that particular group is becoming an assistant to teachers and stuff like that. Tell us how that will be reduced. Would that in any way hinder the teachers being in the classroom at the same time and getting themselves in that learning process of that new implementation you're trying to get them at? How would that implementation process will work out?
So certainly not. It will not remove the teacher from the classroom. And you remember I mentioned part of the element of it will be to have teachers scaffolded, supported, coaches. So these coaches will be on-site persons supporting the teachers. Mm-hmm. So it's on-the-job training for most of it. I mean, there may be one or two sessions where you have to take them out collectively to do training, as happens in the regular school system, but it wouldn't be anything that will interfere significantly with the teaching learning process. But I just want to put out there that the team has already been here. They've done a scoping visit. So prior to much of this conversation, we've had a lot of background work take place. So the team came here, met with stakeholders, interviewed teachers, worked with persons in the school system, get a good sense of what exactly exists from teachers, from parents, to help inform and customize the intervention to Grenada. Mm-hmm. So it's not just going to be something that's Latin American in its scope, but it's going to be adapted to Grenada's context. And so that has already taken place. They are due to be here again on the 15th of June, right? To do further work in preparation for an official launch of this. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's already started, given the foundation works, but to actually implement it in a number of schools. I think we're not starting with all primary schools at the same time. So we're starting with about, I'm not sure the exact number, but it was probably 10 or 15 schools, primary schools, where we're working with those persons, those teachers identified. In the process, teachers will be trained. We'd learn lessons for wider implementation across all our schools. Hopefully by next year this time, we're talking about all schools involved in the program. So I don't envisage it interfering significantly with the teaching learning process, other than to improve it in real time, the quality of the output for students.
Let me ask you this, from an administration standpoint, how will this pool financing and in-kind contribution be managed to ensure that there's transparency and avoid the red tape? You know, these are always the kind of thought pattern that goes through individuals' minds.
So, and that's one of the reasons we have the alliance. Now, in there is the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. So the Chamber of Industry and Commerce would serve as the pooling point for all of these businesses. So we will not necessarily have to interact directly. I mean, of course we have to, because we have to stay in touch with them. But in terms of the financial resources, they would pool them into the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and that will be the single financial contact point for the private sector contributions. And that fund will be linked with GPE, the Global Partnership for Education. They have a foundation, and so that fund will be pooled there so that it's matched and then used to finance the undertaking together with government funding. So I don't envisage it being challenging at all, and in fact the role of the private sector is not going to be overarching or overpowering that of education. It's more advisory, contributing perspectives to our government-led initiatives and policy dialogue. They may have suggestions, they may be able to mobilize financial support. So, but it's not directing the policy direction of the ministry at all, nor the administrative. It's more advisory and supportive.
All right, let me also ask you this. You know, the Alliance focuses, heavily on the primary level numeracy and literacy. Administratively, how these funds be deployed to classrooms to show fast and measurable improvements?
Well, for one, it's not the Alliance that focuses. The ministry's policy direction is that. Okay. So they're supporting that, and whatever the ministry's policy is, they can choose to support as we go. So we are focusing that. Clarification. Yes. But how would that? You ask, how would the financing be channeled? As the program rolls out, the technical support is given by SUMA. Yes. So SUMA will source partners who would come and do the training. Now that has to be financed. They would source technical experts who will come and work with. We will need to hire, probably from local sources, trained, it could be retired persons, who are specialists in reading, who we might need to train up a little bit more with some degree of specificity to deploy them as coaches and supports. These people have to be given some kind of stipend. So some of these things will be financed and paid for through that program, so that the objectives of the program can be realized to ensure that there's quality pedagogical delivery in the teaching learning process in relation to reading and foundational literacy.
Right. I want you to clarify this to me, because sometimes you hear conversation from critics and they would say that corporate sponsorship means corporate control. If you get where I'm coming from with this, over what children learn. How do you balance taking private sector's money while keeping public education policy strictly government-led?
Well, the conversation was clear from the onset. Yeah. And I think the private sector, they recognize that they stand to benefit. If we have a better quality product coming out of the education system, the private sector benefits. They get quality employees, and in turn, their profit margins can increase. But the conversations have been clear. Their role is not policy directing. It's just advisory. It's supportive resource mobilization, probably in kind. They have connections. They know people who might be supportive of a certain thing, foundations that support education that we can tap into. In fact, it was that kind of conversation that got us to link and to know that we had matching funding available for this purpose through GPE. So I'm not worried at all, given the conversations that we have had with the private sector representatives. They all support this from the highest level, and they understand the positive impact that this can have on our whole society. Grenada gets gets better, Grenada gets safer, Grenada has a stronger and better prepared workforce, the businesses do well, and they do better too. And I think they understand that, and the little investment that they're going to put in there will contribute to that, and they support that. So I don't think there's any conflict or any worry at all about confusion of rules.
For what you said as Minister personally, do you believe that this particular alliance could work in terms of enhancing education to the percentage that you would like to see it get at in Grenada?
Oh yes. But the truth is, we were going to pursue this even without private sector help, because I believe in this so much. Because a lot of the clutter, a lot of the clamor we make about fixing things down the road and putting this program in place when people are 15, 16, to catch up on things that they should have done when they were 5 and 6 is a waste of time. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's not a waste of time, but you get less return on every dollar spent at that time than you do when you put it foundationally. Yeah? If you put the right things in place foundationally, you get 90% out of every dollar value. When you do that when they're 15, you probably get 20% of every dollar. So you waste a lot more the longer you take to make these interventions. So I'm sold out for the early interventions, and my staff too. Yeah. And we were prepared to pursue this without help from the private sector. But when we got wind that if we had done this model, we could do more and we could do further, go further. I mean, I was just so thrilled that we can get buy-in and support from a wider cross-section of persons to do what we were going to do anyway. Yeah? And I'm confident it's going to work. Right. And you're going to see benefits in real time. I'm confident that next year, God's willing, this time, you will be hearing some stories, you'll be seeing, and we will follow this. We will make sure we stay on top of this and do the communication to map and to benchmark where we've been, where we are, where this is going to be different. I'm very confident it's going to succeed.
I mean, I asked a question because sometimes you hear a lot of these programs being launched, and sometimes in the long run you see there be a little or no fruit, especially helping youngsters, because sometimes we see the same problem reoccurring over and over the years. So that's why I asked if you feel as a minister how you are confident that this program will bear a lot of fruit in time to come.
Oh yeah, and in fact we were already prioritizing early childhood education in the ministry. So this fits so well with the philosophy and policy direction of the ministry in terms of early education and foundational interventions.
All right, great. I want to swing the conversation just a wee bit. Let's talk about the Center of Excellence. I want to update on some updates on that a wee bit. The choice of location, sir. Why MacDonald College in St. Patrick's selected as a flagship hub for the Center of Excellence network this year around?
Well, I'm not sure that's the latest information I want to share because there are probably more accurate bits of information that I prefer to share.
Well, let's hear your side of it.
So
that's what I grabbed out, so I was probably flown on that level.
Right, so we are considering 4 centers at the moment, and these centers of excellence tie into the areas of Grenada's economy that we know if we produce quality skilled persons in those areas, it will feed Grenada's job market, and it would feed Grenada's economy. So one of those areas is construction, fabrication, and furniture making. Another is fishing, boat building, and marine studies, which we've never really done in a formal sense. A third is hotel and tourism management, and we know how important hotel and tourism, the tourism industry is to Grenada's economy.
Yes.
But the last one here is agriculture. So we are talking about the Agriculture School of Excellence. And I want to start with this one because this is the one that we're planning to launch first.
Okay.
And the location for that one is not MacDonald College. The location is the TAMCC, the Marybo campus for the TAMCC, where the former farm school used to be. So that's going to be our Center of Excellence for Agriculture.
Okay.
Yeah. Already work has started there. We have repaired the dormitories that laid in ruins since 2004. Yeah. When we visited sometime, was it last year, we were surprised that several of the dormitories, in fact, students were not being kept there anyway. And not many students were being taught there, unfortunately, because the agriculture program seemed to have been sliding to its death. But we can't have that in a place where we need food security. In a place where agriculture, and because of the uncertainties surrounding international trade and international situations, and our vulnerability to environmental shocks every time, we have to make sure food security is a big issue. And we have to find a way to add value to our local products, the herbs that we have. What's the research going into our herbs? And what's the research going into adding value to several of our primary agricultural products? And how do we secure our food? And already there's been quite a number of things happening. The farm machinery restored in department in Maribor, the abattoir functional and working. Are we talking about the breeding of the hybrid animals that the Ministry of Agriculture brought in? Yes. So some of that is taking place at the Maribor campus. And so we have started repairing the campus there and the facilities, and we've had a consortium of universities come to study those 4 areas, a consortium of universities and colleges from Canada, Niagara College, Dalhousie University, and Nova Scotia Community College. And those colleges have expertise in the same 4 areas that I talked about. Yeah. So we were guided by them in terms of curriculum development, in terms of what facilities need to be available to do emerging trends in agriculture. So things like drone technology and technology in agriculture, and things like agro-processing and food security, things like biosecurity, things like a number of different things will span the curriculum. And our aim, very ambitious, is to have the first cohort started in September 2026. Okay. I know I'm saying this in public, and I could be held accountable for that statement, but our team is working assiduously to get to that launch date in September. Now, we still have quite a lot of things outstanding, but we've put together the curriculum. Cabinet has approved the curriculum. We are consulting with various stakeholders, TAMCC, the Ministry of Agriculture. We're talking with the Office of the CEO. We're talking with schools. Well, I think some conversations are lined up because we want to have 3 cohorts of students. We want to have a 14 to 16. So the Center of Excellence will have accommodation for students within the mainstream of education. Yeah. So students from Form 3 will be able to go to the center. And in the first instance, we are targeting the 4 secondary schools in St. Andrew, just to start, to see it take its wings. And we're targeting a certain cohort. We want to have at least 60 or so students from the 4 secondary schools in the 14 to 16 cohort. And then there's going to be a 16 to 4. So 14 to 16 generally mark students who are completing Form 3, right? And the 16 to 18 are usually students who thereabout complete secondary school. So they would be exposed to a different kind or more in-depth curriculum. One of the key differences is that this is going to be competency-based. All right. So the students exposed there will be exposed to hands-on skills, agribusiness, business undertaking, agro-processing, so some labs and stuff have to be repurposed.
So it's going to be like a community model there now, per se?
Well, yes, you could say that, but it's going to be including technological advancements in agriculture, all of the current trends in agriculture, and it's going to have these 3, and you have the 18 plus. So you have 18 plus, you have 16 to 18, and you have 14 to 16. All of these being catered to. The 14 to 16, there's going to be a combined approach where they will come to the center 1 day per week to get exposed over the 2 years. So we have it fleshed out, and we want to start working it in September 2026. Hopefully we meet the targets and there are no barriers. If there are barriers, I'll come back and say, listen, we have not been able to to get the timeline, but that's the target. And I told my team, I'm not looking at the potential barriers, I'm just pressing on to try to get this done. And if we meet a barrier and I have to say, listen, we couldn't get this September, we get October, I'll say that. I'm man enough to say that, but we are pressing with a target. Right. And that's what we have. But I'm excited about that. And then the same thing would happen by next year, this time, God's willing, we hope to have the other centers fleshed out. But we're starting with this one, and we hope to roll out the others. We are in discussion with a number of entities, for instance, for the Hotel and Tourism School. We are in discussion with a number of local hotels that we want to collaborate with to be able to use their facilities to partner, to do active teaching. Because one of the things that we're going to do there is to ensure that we train people not just to be bartenders and housekeepers, but the supervisory positions that often are sourced outside of Grenada. We want to make sure that they are properly trained in those facilities to standard, so that we are with some partners. You know, we had some meetings with the Hotel and Tourism Association, the Royal Tons, the Silver Sands, the Sandals. They were all part of the discussions before, even SGU, and we're looking at how we can prepare our persons curriculum-wise as well as practice and practical experience-wise. So you're going to hear more about those schools, but the one before us right now is the agriculture
one.
Maribor campus.
Oh, great.
That we're looking for.
You know. What I would like to ask also, how does the Center of Excellence directly link with the wider digital governance and resilience project? When I say that, are we training students for jobs that actually exist in Grenada today?
Well, not just in Grenada, but both.
Yeah.
Because to talk about the wider digital infrastructure, from all our schools, we have it.
Yeah.
From the primary schools, you talk about e-testing, and you talk about e-books, and you talk about the e-infrastructure that's there to support teaching and learning. The OECS harmonized primary curriculum that support teachers, and all of these, they're parts of the electronic ecosystem that we are providing our students. All the students who did CPEA just did them on their devices. It means they had to be prepared, they had to be familiar. So that's happening throughout the primary schools. It's continuing in secondary school with the e-devices and the e-books, the devices and the e-books. And even most of these paper ones are being done electronically in most schools. So apart from math and English because of the large numbers. So that's happening. And in terms of the centers more specifically, you have smart classrooms. So we have in TAMCC, the Maribor campus is already outfitted with at least one smart class room where you can stay at the main campus in TAMCC and you can stream lessons there to make sure. So it's outfitted with the technologies, and all of the centers will have that. The technology will be a cross-cutting theme through all of the centers. Because we can't be in a modern 21st century society and say we do in education and not have the underpinnings of technology that will allow for persons to be able to navigate the system. For instance, the apps that allow you to be able to program your sprinklers to come on at a certain time. All of those things will be considered in the new Center of Excellence. Yeah. So that you bring the technology into agriculture so that people will know that agriculture is no longer supposed to be seen as just a spade and a fork and a cutlass. But there are technological advancements that we can bring to the process to make it commensurate with the era in which we are developing it and proposing it.
All right, great. We drew for a break. Let's take it when we come back. We continue the conversation. No Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. Don't touch it down.
Pot a bubble and the food smell nice.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Thinking about your new home? Think easy. Think of Republic Bank Home Easy Loan. Think affordable. Think convenience. Think Republic.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3. Republic makes home easy.
Wow, that was such a breeze.
Own your home with ease.
So whether laying that first brick or purchasing an existing home, we've got you covered. Republic Bank will get you those keys hassle-free in no time.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Apply for a Home Easy Loan today for a chance to win a cash prize. Getting your new home is easy with Republic Bank.
Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, my name is Shanice George. I'm a student at the St. David's Catholic Secondary School, and I'm encouraging all Grenadians to come and support St. David's Catholic Secondary School as we raise funds for Zura Thomas as she fights her battle with cancer at the hospital. I encourage everyone to support, and we see you there.
At the King of the Grill, there will be a wide variety of different foods such as seafood, fish, chicken, and come out. I encourage you to come out and support and have fun. It's going to be a culinary explosion, and it will feel good knowing that your contribution goes to a worthy cause also.
St. David's Catholic Secondary School. We're looking forward to seeing you at the King of the Grill. See you there.
Fire up the coals, bring the flavor. It's time to crown the King of the Grill. Maggie King of the Grill 2026 is calling you. Think you got the creativity, the skills, and the fire to rule the grill? This is the ultimate showdown for chefs, backyard masters, and the food lovers alike. Step up, show your talent, and claim your spot among the best. With over $5,000 in cash and prizes to be won, the stakes has never been hotter. Happening Saturday, May the 30th. Register now. Call or WhatsApp 407-8458. 28th. But hurry, registration close April the 30th. Don't wait. Bring your fire, bring your flavor, and bring your A-game. Maggie, King of the Grill 2026, where champions are made on the grill.
Maggie King of the Grill is powered by Maggie, enhancing your flavors. Rubis, Blue Bubbles Tent and Rentals, Grenada Paper Products, Grenville Credit Union, Flow, Budget Foods, My Finance Grenada, Carib Breweries, Ride Go Grenada, Glen Spring Water, and Grenada Bottling Company Limited. Maggie King of the Grill and Food Festival, where flavor meets fire.
Welcome to the island's boldest ATV experience. The only tour daring enough to bring you this level of excitement, freedom, and adrenaline. Feel the power. Conquer rugged trails. Experience breathtaking views. Ride beyond the ordinary. Feel the power. This is not just a tour. This is the power of Ride ATV. Get ready for fun. Get ready for excitement. Get ready to ride. Book now at ride.gd or call 473-422-1011. Ride ATV. Adventure starts here.
Welcome back once again to our listeners. Welcome back to our viewers. Senator Andrew, welcome back once again. I want us to talk about a little bit about school infrastructure. They will say, the summer vacation, is in traditional windows where, we see heavy school repairs taking place. With the academic year looming, what specific schools are flagged for that immediate and non-negotiable structure taking place so far in that overall overhaul that they need and so forth?
Right. So I'm happy that we have been continually repairing schools. We've had a mechanism where we've had more preventative type school maintenance. So before something becomes a huge problem that requires the shutdown of a school, we have been working with that problem where we have some contractors assigned to various numbers of schools in different school districts, and they have been treating with the issues and the challenges. So there are issues that are continuously being treated with. In terms of there's been an overall school assessment every year. The Ministry of Education leads a school review process, particularly as it relates to schools that are serving as shelters for the Atlantic hurricane season every year. And that is comprised of engineers from the Ministry of Infrastructure and technical people, so that the strongness of schools always looked at. So we have the listing and their recommendations in terms of what they recommend to do. We are addressing those. There are one or two schools that have some challenges that require us to do some in-house decision making. Some might require relocation of some schools as we embark on some of those major repairs. And it's not that there's structural problems to the extent where it threatens anybody, but if we are going to fix some of the challenges that are there, it will require, in one case, for instance, removing the whole roof. And if you remove the whole roof of a school, you can't have that happening while school is in process. And then if you have the roof and the electrical, and then you have it's being threatened by outside factors like the water source close by, then there are other considerations that you take into account. But for now, we are satisfied that most of the schools are in a good place. I don't foresee any major challenge in terms of school reopening. We'll address whatever is needful at the time, but I'm happy to report though that we continue to work on the new infrastructural projects. The Grenada Christian Academy is nearing completion. I would have been happy to have it for September. I'm not sure we will, but we're still pushing and looking to see how close we can come to the September. You always cannot predict the contractors as much as they'll give you timelines. Sometimes it always drags more than you want them to, but we do for our visitor tomorrow, God's will, so we'd have more accurate updates on what's likely to happen. Then I said tomorrow, I'm not sure it's tomorrow, but before the week is out. Then we have St. David's Catholic Secondary, and that's going ahead of schedule from all indications. The Sacred Heart Pre-Primary School in Tivoli, that one is almost complete. I think the contractor was last clearing up the site and cleaning and doing the final landscaping. So I think we're in a good place to eventually see that one be made available for the coming school term. The Florida government is going well. As again, we'll have a more up-to-date report after this week's visit. And Cali's government, they're proceeding quite well there as well in terms of new constructions and additions to the school infrastructure across the nation. So I'm happy about those.
You know, when we talk about infrastructure today, so you know, we aren't just talking about, you know, coat of paint and stuff like that. We're talking about how is the ministry ensuring that, you know, school renovations accounts for the, you know, the intense heat that we're seeing happening these days. How are we talking about the acoustics and stuff like that? Hurricane resilience and stuff like that. Talk to me about that.
So before I answer that, I forgot to mention my very own Anglican, the Grenville Anglican. St. Andrew's Anglican School, that's going at great guns as well. They're out of the dirt and the foundation, and you know Grenville is pretty challenging in terms of the low-lying sea level. So true. So they had to do deep foundation work, and they're out of that. So you'll just see a lot more speed going forward. But you asked the question about building climate-resilient infrastructure, and that is what we pride ourselves on. A number of key and defining features in the way we construct. One, there's going to be access for students with different abilities, so lifts and ramps, all of those will be key features. And then having climate smart infrastructure in terms of having roofs that are outfitted for water harvesting and for the generation of solar energy. So in some cases the panels can be placed on top of those buildings, so they're sturdy. We've all constructed them with that kind of architectural design to ensure that they meet 21st century climate smart infrastructure criteria.
All right, great. You know, I want to ask this question. How heavily is the Ministry, you know, of Education relying on public-private partnership when it comes to rescuing the, you know, failing schools infrastructure? Because we know we see certain schools been getting assistance from, you know, whether it's, you know, from church foundations, you know, community, diaspora support and so forth. Talk to me about that.
Well, the truth is, I think the government has borne the brunt of financing for school infrastructure. We'll be happy to embrace partnership. And we are well positioned for it, you know, because we have a lot of, for instance, church schools, denominational schools. But you find there's a greater eagerness to have the presence of the denominations felt in other sectors, in probably managing or directing or saying who gets hired or what happens within the system. And sometimes you don't find that degree of eagerness to support with the infrastructure. And, you know, in a strict sense, in some of the cases, the infrastructure belongs to the denomination. You see, so there's, and I'm saying that to say that there is the opportunity for that to happen in a bigger sense. You do find some small elements of it, but probably not sufficient, because I think the lion's share of the financing for school infrastructure and upgrade falls to the ministry, falls to the government.
All right, great.
At this point.
Great. In this segment, we're going to give opportunity to our listeners and viewers. It's already 10 a.m. So we give opportunity to our listeners and viewers who may have a question or two they want to ask in terms of our conversation this morning. And I certainly know maybe you call us, our listeners out there who may have a question or two. The lines are now open, 435-2041, 435. Due to time constraints, listeners and viewers, I beg of you to just make your contribution, and the minister will answer. We can move on and accommodate as many callers as possible in the short time we have allotted. First caller you're live. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Telesford. Normally I'm quite succinct. Good morning to your guests. I'd like to hear some of the things I'm talking about. You know, one thing that stands out to me, however, as it relates to education, particularly in literacy. Years ago we suggested, of course, when I say we, I refer to me, but I don't want to use I. I'd rather use that our failure in teaching the official language of the country was eminent, was crystally clearly exposed. We suggested the quote-unquote functional, notional approach in the teaching of the language. What we have in today, 12, 13 years after this first idea was thrown out to the government of Grenada, the ministry, they totally disregarded. Why? Because some of us saying what? Nothing. But I'm happy that you have recognized, and it had to take you 4 years in office to recognize that the direction as it relates to the linguistics, development of linguistic skills of our people has been a total failure. I hope that you do it correctly this time, and we stand willing and ready to assist where we possibly can. One of the things we have to concentrate on seriously in linguistic skills is that of the phonetics. In other words, the pronunciation, proper pronunciation of words, linking in reading, we can help. You know, Mr. Minister, as I end here, I asked you some years ago, you were on this public radio, on this said program, to assist me with a plastic folding table, 6 foot, and 6 chairs, so I can help the children in the village in their capacity of English language and Castilian Spanish language. You promised me you never did anything about it after. Why bluff? Finally, so as it relates to education, I'm concerned about the education with people with disabilities, especially the blind people. We have in this here country a resource, quote unquote, resource center for the blind. Can you tell me, sir, honestly, what that institution is doing? What have they been able to succeed in doing over the past couple? Give me 1 or 2, at least 2 of their success stories over the how many 20 plus years of its existence. Clearly it's not your fault that it has failed before. But after 4 years under your administration, sir, can you tell us a bit about? Have a nice day, will you, gentlemen?
Thank you, sir. Right. Have a good morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much, caller, indeed, for you've raised several things. Well, let me apologize if I promised you to get your folding table. It's not my intention to bluff, but certainly I'd leave the contacts for the Ministry of Education, and hopefully you could reach out to the office, and if there's please make sure that message gets to the Secretary, to the Minister, and we'll see how we can fix that. Okay. To answer your question, it didn't take us 4 years to realize this, sir, but lots of things need to be put in place. And for instance, we've done a lot of things with early childhood education and development in terms of the policy development and formalizing the standards for education within the early childhood units within our education system. So that's happening. We are doing an interministerial collaboration with health, social development. So there are other pieces of this thing that requires other partners, other ministries to come together that we've been treating with over the 4 years. This part, though, is a different part that we're just choosing to deliberately and intentionally focus on with a view to systematically changing the outcomes at the end. So it's not taking us all 4 years to realize just this, and a lot of work has gone in before. You asked about special needs, and certainly we have seen a lot of improvements in the special needs. We have strengthened the special needs department at the Ministry of Education. So now we have about 6 officers. We had 1 when I got into office. 1. We have about 6 officers offering a stronger suite of services to persons with special needs. They have an itinerant schedule. They go to schools. They support people in the mainstream, and we've even had persons with special abilities write exams and succeed in several schools. We've had some private, some have gone on even to college. Now we've gone to a point where we need to advocate for the stronger inclusion in the world of work. And so that's a level of our engagement, another level of our engagement that we have to champion for. But we have certainly made advances, in my view. I can't answer specifically for that particular the Center for the Blind that you mentioned, but I know we have itinerant persons who go to schools and assist persons with the Braille and assist persons with the various learning needs and deficiencies. So I'm confident to stand on that and know that we are supporting students better than it was before. Thank you.
We do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Yes, good morning. God's blessings to all. What's the status of the Dover Government School?
Right, so the status of the Dover Government School, we have had some conceptual designs that we discussed with the stakeholders in Carriacou. At the moment, we are currently awaiting the engineering designs and their finalization. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Education does not have the capabilities to fast-track the designs itself. We don't have engineers, we don't have architects, and admittedly the Ministry of Infrastructure is stretched, from my understanding. With all of the projects happening across the nation, it's the same pool of engineers. In fact, I've heard Prime Minister saying that the Ministry of Infrastructure will do well with another 30 engineers to handle the scale of work that is happening across the country. So I think that shortage in capacity is delaying further movement, but the commitment is there once we have the engineering designs to move on with Dover.
Oh, great. We do have another caller. Caller live. Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, morning. Quickly, before my substantive point, I just want to take the opportunity to invite the minister to a breakfast next week, Saturday, on the Carnage Plaza next to Pizza Hut, beginning 7 o'clock in the morning. Minister, you see this computer, every day people complain about the children, this and the children that. I find don't introduce computer, and I don't care where sexy or whoever it is. Every time is a problem with children, they can't read, they can't write. Why y'all don't go back? Because I see in Barbados the other day, there were 35,000 people use the public library and they're reading. Why don't you all leave these children, let the computer era for them up when they reach about 18 years or thing? But to have these children in a young age, everything is click. If you see the kind of writing, instead of Y-O-U, people, P-L, all these kind of things, this obsession that all you have with computer for children and starting young. This is why the children is like that. And all you can see that they have failures in the system. They can't read and they can't write. Let them children go back to the old system like Barbados. What Barbados do now, they're looking at something in a different model. They're introducing a lot of libraries for people to go back and read, and more libraries coming on. Forget about this computer with these young children and them. That is why they're so dunce. Every year is a failure in maths and English, and still all you cannot hear that this computer is making these children dunce. So leave it up. And in fact, in some parts of the world now, I think they ban social media for children up to a certain age. Australia and some parts of Europe. Forget about these forcing them children with this computer. Let them children go back to the books. Forget about these e-books. And let them able to think for themselves. And let them also be involved in games and other things. Talking to people instead of texting and computer. That is my problem. That is why the children is so backward. And all you can do what all you want.
Thank you, caller.
The computer.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much, caller. I appreciate your sentiments. Not all of them I agree with. Now, you see, as Minister for Education, we have the obligation to train our nation's children so that they can be global citizens and they can be relevant. Yeah. It makes no sense say we're educating people and they can't fit in the world. Yeah. And so it's an imperative that we give them the tools. Now, she's talking a lot about social media and all of that, and I share some of the things. I have 3 children, and I had personal guidelines for my family and my children. They didn't have phones until a certain time, and the kind of phones they had at a certain time, they used to tell me was a joke. Yeah. Because I managed what they saw and what they were allowed to do, and we have to recognize, and that's why the intervention we're talking about involves families. Yes. The foundational learning. So it's a lot at stake here. But to say let's just forget that will mean that we are not preparing our nation's children for where the jobs lie. A lot of the jobs are going online. Paying your bills online. And if we train people that can't function there, we are actually disadvantaging our nation's children. But I do agree with you. And we are quite aware. That's why we didn't give laptops to kindergartners and those in the primary schools, because we understand what some of the research is saying. But we have to balance it, and I think we're doing a fair job at that, strategically not giving to the lowest set of students. But there's a lot of value in the technologies that we need to harness and balance it well, but our society, our parents, families need to take responsibilities for what they allow or don't allow their children to do or not do.
Okay, we do have another caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, and this particular caller will end the calling segment. Caller live. Good morning, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you for taking my call. I listened to the last person that speak, and I'm completely 100% reject what she's saying. I happen to believe that we are living in a world that we don't only preparing our children for Grenada and the backward. Today, we're preparing Grenadian children for the rest of the world, and the rest of the world deal with computer on a daily basis. So if we expect children from Grenada to go out of the world, go out to New York, go to Canada, go to the rest of the part of the world. We must prepare them. And they cannot go out there and being surprised while they come to park is walking on the boardwalk and dealing with computers and doing things with computers. We have to prepare our children. So we are not in the 50s, we are in the 21st century, and I believe that teaching our children how to gain knowledge from computer, how to do research and understand what it means, it's a vital important, and I think you guys are on the right track. Children using computer to gain the knowledge and do the research that they need is important, and it's important to start at an early age, because we are not preparing our children only to live in Grenada in the 50s. We are preparing our children to go all parts of the world and excel. So I believe that the minister is on the right track.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much. Appreciate your contribution there, whole lot. I think the caller make a lot of sense there also.
Yes. I mean, the truth is, to the previous caller's point, we are doing the libraries. So the St. George's Library is going to be refurbished because we believe in that too. But even then, the model of the library would have to take a different look.
Yes.
The one in Grenville, that's on the cards as well. So we're not ignoring the libraries, but we have to, as the last caller said, adapt and become relevant, or we lose effectiveness, and we don't want to do it. We don't want to come up with a stone knife in this age.
I agree.
Or tell people that they must use candles or masantos when we have electricity. That kind of stuff.
This is my outro question for you, Minister, before we take a wrap this morning. Looking ahead for the rest of 2026, what is the single biggest milestone you must hit? Consider the alliance a total to